Hi and welcome back. In this video, let's talk about Python logging. In the simplest terms, the logging module is used to print things out. Very much like the print function that you've used before, but the logging module is a bit more powerful. It can be used to print things out to a console or to a file. And essentially it's used to print out logs. I don't know if we've mentioned logs before, but a log is essentially everything that happened in your application. For example, you could have a log of your day in which you write down in some sort of notebook everything that happened in your day. You could have a log of a holiday in which you write down everything that happened during your holiday. And you could have a log of your app in which you write down everything that happened during your app's runtime. For example, whether an error happened, a critical problem, some information about some method that's running, basically anything. And these logs are used for developers to look into to understand how the applications are running. Of course, if you have a very small app, it's maybe not so useful. As your app starts growing, having some decent logging in there is going to be very handy. The good thing about the logging module is, well, one of the good things about the logging module is that it has various levels of logging. And you can sort of enable some levels and disable others. So for example, as you are developing, you may want to use the logger to output informative messages about what's happening in your application. Once you deploy your application, you share it with your users, and it's running, and you've got a lot of people using it, maybe you don't want informative messages, you only want messages that are related to errors. So with a logging module, you can do that. If you've got print statements everywhere, you cannot enable some and disable others. So the logging module, pretty cool. We can import logging. And the first thing we have to do is we have to get a new logger. So we're going to create a variable logger, and it's going to be logging.getLogger. And then we have to give it the name of the logger we want. So we're going to call it test logger. The good thing about this is that it's meant to be used across multiple files. So if you have a logger called test logger, and you call this from a different file entirely, it's actually going to give you the same object. And that's good because you can configure loggers to print things out differently. You can configure loggers to export to a file or to the console. So it's quite nice that you can do this so that when you get the same logger from a different file, it will be configured the same way. We're going to look at configuring them in a moment. Then it's very simple. When you want to print things out, all you do is you say logger.info, for example, and this will not show up. Or you can do something like logger warning, and this will. Then you can run it. And as you can see, you get warning, test logger, this will. Your informative message did not show up because by default, all loggers are configured so that they only show messages warning and above. So here are the levels that you've got. You've got debug, that's the lowest level. You've got info, that's the level above.